All right, Video Guys Live. Today's show is all about LiveU and the LiveU Solo. Dun, dun, dun. We also are going to talk about the LiveU 300S, a new higher-end broadcast level product. I'm really excited about that. We're going to bring in our workflow specialist, Glen. But before we bring him in, I just want to say, how's everyone doing? I think it's been about a month since I last did a show. I've been running all over the country and out on vacations and other stuff this summer. I know James and the rest of the crew and Glen have done a great job filling in for me and doing some great shows, and I'm happy to be back. And I think I'm going to be back here for the next few weeks doing shows again, but really excited about doing this show on LiveU. I wore an orange shirt today, so I can match my orange Solo and the LiveU coloring. We're all jumping on the bandwagon. So today's show is going to be broken into two parts. First part is going to be top 5 reasons for starting streaming with LiveU Solo. Second part is going to be introduction to the LU300, a broadcast quality product. So if you're interested in higher end stuff, definitely stick around for the whole show. But if you're just on a budget and you're a one-off, live event videographer, shooter, I understand if you got to sign off after the first part of the show. But without further ado, I'd like to introduce Glen Seaman now. Glen is a workflow specialist, and he's coming to us live right now from, I think that's a diner or a coffee shop, correct?
It's my local coffee shop. Yes, Gary.
Okay, so Glen is actually coming in on the LU300S. I know a lot of times we use Teams or Zoom or new tech tools to bring someone in. He's actually coming in from the 300, and we have TalkBack working with the 300S. We're going to go into the 300S later, but I just wanted to talk about that. The first part of the show, though, is about the LiveU Solo. So we're going to have 5 things we love about the LiveU Solo, top 5 reasons. So I'm going to run them down now before me and Glen take a deeper dive into them. We have start streaming within seconds. It's so easy to use. Deliver rock solid, reliable video. It is just a phenomenal quality encoder. Stream live from anywhere. That's all about cellular bonding in the LRT cloud. Easily select your online destination. A lot of people don't realize that you can go from a LiveU Solo to any RTMP stream, not just Facebook or YouTube or Twitter or Twitch or what have you. And then stream like a pro for an affordable price, because we want to really stress some of the pricing and how affordable this pricing is. So Glen, you've done several shows with us about the LiveU, the Solo, and higher end products. Let's start by just talking about the LiveU encoders. There's 2 encoders. There's the one I have here, which is the, let me check and make sure, HDMI version. And then we also have a version that's HDMI and SDI, depending on what you need. And the prices are $9.95 and $14.95. Now, that's today's show. I will tell you that for a limited time period, about 2 weeks, you can save $100 on the LiveU Solos. So that's a little option that you have. I think we have a lower third showing that, correct? Okay, cool. So Glen, let's talk about start streaming within seconds. Now, when you get a LiveU Solo, you got to take some time to set it up initially, the person who's setting it up.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I mean, when you first get it, you log into a website, you set it up, you put in your RTMP streams for whatever your destination is. But once you've gone through that initial setup, when you're in the field, it's as simple as pushing the start button, and within seconds, whatever HDMI or HDSDI input you're putting into the unit is now streaming live to Facebook, YouTube Live, wherever your destination is. So it's literally just push a button and go.
So I think that's really important, because there are a lot of encoders out there that do some of the same things that LiveU does, maybe as an encoder, but a lot of them require, every time you use them, a setup, cutting and pasting keys, doing things like that. Once you set up your stream to your RTMP, when you take it out on the field, you just hit go and you're streaming. I think that's so important, because you don't have to worry about needing a computer or needing something else to get it set up to start streaming. You need to set it up with a computer, but once it's set up, you can start streaming almost instantaneously.
Right.
Now let's talk about rock solid, reliable videos. Now this is one of the things that I like to talk about with the LiveU Solo, is that it is first and foremost an encoder. It's an encoder that also does cellular bonding, but as an encoder itself, it is one of the highest quality encoders out there, and it really does a great job. Talk to that a little bit if you could, Glen.
Yeah, the first thing is, like you said, it is a standalone encoder, so you can connect to Ethernet, you can connect to Wi-Fi. It's a very efficient H.264 encoder. When we get into some of the other stuff where we start talking about bonding and things like that, we're going to get a little bit more into the detail with this. but basically you've got a great encoder. So if you just need, hey, I just need a reliable encoder, it's a great unit. The nice thing about it too is there's a display on it so you can actually kind of know what's going on.
Yeah, and one of the things that I'd like to talk about when we say an encoder is you can use this on camera as an on-camera device, but you can also use it as a downstream encoder, taking HDMI or SDI out of a production switcher or a mixer or something like a TriCaster to go into it. And the reason I bring that up is a lot of people have, maybe they're running vMix on a computer, maybe they're running a TriCaster Mini, whatever they're doing, and you can definitely push a computer to the limit of what it can do. And one of the things, if you see that your streams are getting choppy or you're not able to do the stuff you want to do from your production system, is by offloading the encoding to a separate encoder, you're going to see how your streaming and mixing solution is going to get that much more powerful. And all of a sudden, you'll be able to bring in those graphics, lower thirds, and do the green stream. So offloading encoding is a tech tip that we've been using for a long time. And even though computers keep getting faster and faster, our customers keep finding more and more ways to overload those computers, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it's nice to have an all-in-one box. I mean, all-in-one boxes are great for getting going and making it easy, but as you push things more and more, having dedicated devices for certain things like encoding just makes it that much easier. You don't have to worry about, hey, if I do another effect, if I do another graphic layer, what's going to happen to my video stream? I've got one thing that can consistently do a stream.
Yep. And speaking of streams, stream live from anywhere. Now, the term I like to say is when you have a LiveU Solo, you have insurance that you're always going to have enough bandwidth, and you have assurance that you can tell your customer you're bringing your bandwidth with you. So that means you don't have to worry about their firewalls, their internet, their wonky Wi-Fi, their problems they have in their area. And I think if you're going to be streaming professionally, you really want to look into an encoder like this because it's so much more reliable. And that reliability is an incredible asset that the LiveU Solo brings. And talk about the LRT. What's the magic? I like to call it the secret sauce, the magic that makes it all work. The LRT is the LiveU cloud that actually takes those cellular signals and allows you to get that bigger bandwidth. So talk a little bit about LRT if you could.
Yeah, so LRT, which is LiveU Reliable Transport, what that's doing is if you just have a single network connection, you've got a single wired network connection, that's great. That's what you're going to use. You don't need LRT because you're only using that one connection. But let's say you want to use that wired connection because it's a little dicey, you're not getting great bandwidth from it, or you're not sure about it, and you want to use a wireless or maybe even a mobile hotspot as a wireless. What LRT allows you to do is connect to both of those devices and then bond those two together. So the way I kind of look at it is if you're getting 5 megabits of upload from one device and 10 megabits from the other, when you combine those two, you get a good 15 megabit pipe. So you get a really good reliable pipe. If one goes up or down, if your performance changes, you're still always going to have a connection. And where that really kicks in is when you start talking about cellular. And that's where it gets really neat is these things have the ability to add cellular antennas to them. So now this is really being able to stream from anywhere because now you've got your network with you. You've got so many things that you have to think about when you're going on remote locations, lighting situations, power situations, weather, all those other things. Let's take the network out of it. Just know that wherever you go, you're going to be able to reliably stream just by plugging into this. And what that LRT does, like I said, is it will take all the bandwidth across the entire devices that you have. So it'll take your network connection, it'll take your wireless connection, it'll take your cellular modems and make one big pipe to consistently send reliable data. And that LRT is what kind of manages being able to bond all those together.
All right, and then let's talk about it. So you can go 4 different ways. You can go in through Ethernet, Wi-Fi, or 2 USB modems. And we have this little picture here. This is one of the kits. They have Connect kits that you can buy. But I want to stress that not only does the cellular modems they combine for more bandwidth, but you get a level of redundancy as well. So if one's not good, the other kicks in. So that's why LiveU Solo is so superior to even a singular cellular. Even if you have a singular cellular and you have 5 bars great service, there's always the risk that you'll walk around and you'll go to a spot that all of a sudden doesn't have that great coverage. By having both, they load balance and give you a bigger pipe. So it's the most reliable solution we have ever offered for mobile live streaming. So if
right, because in most cases, you're not just using one carrier. So all the bundles will have multiple carriers. So you might have an AT&T and a Verizon SIM. So the nice thing about that is maybe you're in a spot where Verizon's better than AT&T. Great, you're still got covered. Or maybe it's just, hey, as I walk from one side of the field to the other, this side, like the left side likes AT&T, the other side likes Verizon. I'm going to constantly have a connection.
Right. So let's bring up this slide full screen because I want to show what the pricing model is here, and that is you have the LiveU encoders are $9.85 or $14.95, lower third, and you also can get the LiveU SoloConnect kits. The 2 modem kit is $450 with a data plan for $295, or you can get the 3 modem kit for $650 with a data plan of $435. So that is a lot of good ways that you can do that on these kits. And we have found that those kits are really important because while you can use and roll your own with your own modems and your own plans, these plans have unlimited data. You get everything you need, and it just works. I'm not going to say right out of the box. You got to be prepared that it's going to take you about a day, to get everything up and running for the modems to kick in. Unfortunately, it's not instantaneous. It's faster than it was, but it does take a little time. So Glenn, if you could talk a little about these Connect kits and why we love them so much.
Yeah, so the Connect kits, the nice thing about it is, they're modems, they're the antennas, they're the SIMs, it's all set to go. If you go out and buy your own SIMs, there's a certain list of ones that will work, or modems that will work with the LiveU. Then you got to go and work with a data plan with your individual carrier, and you have to worry about where you're at. The nice thing is, when you go with the Connect kits, you can purchase the data plan right through LiveU. That data plan includes LRT, it includes, depending on how many modems you have, if you go with the 2 connection kit, you're going to have 2 unlimited data plans. And that is truly unlimited. You could start recording or start streaming on the first day of the month and stream until the last day of the month and never get shut off. You got to worry about that with your cell providers. They may let you get away with that a couple times, and then they may throttle you or they might cut you back. All you got to do is when you go to the LiveU site and you set up your unit, you sign up for the account, you put in your credit card there, and you start to make your monthly payments right on the data plan. The warning I do like to give people is this happens all the time. There's 2 things that are going to delay your streaming. A lot of times we'll get a phone call from somebody that says on a Thursday they want to buy the unit because they're going to do a shoot on Saturday or they're going to do a shoot on Friday. It does take time. You got to make sure that first off, if you're streaming to YouTube Live or Facebook, that you've set up your accounts and you're ready for live, because that takes 24 hours on YouTube Live. The modems and actually doing all the setup of allocating and getting your SIMs connected to the network, that can take 24 hours. So you really want to allow yourself just time for all of the external services to get locked and loaded.
Right, but I do want to stress that you can still roll your own if you want to. And this is a little chart we have that we were putting up that shows different manufacturers of modems and what's supported in what countries and stuff like that. But we still say, for best results, for best value, get one of the Connect kits. Unlimited data, 2 cell modems or 3. It's just the way to go. So one of the other things that's really cool is that a lot of people think, well, I know the Solo can go to Facebook, I know it can go YouTube, Twitch, Vimeo, because we always show those. Those are the logos that people know. But the truth of the matter is it can go to any RTMP stream. So talk about that a little bit, because a lot of people don't realize you could set up a custom RTMP stream, and just like going to Facebook or YouTube, you can immediately go from the field. It's one button and you're streaming.
Yeah, so on the website, you would go in and you can actually set up multiple profiles. So if you're somebody that does Twitch, does YouTube, does Facebook, does Vimeo or any other number of streaming services, you can set all those different profiles up. The last one loaded is always the one that'll default to. So the nice thing is, if okay, great, I'm going to go do a game this weekend and it's going to YouTube Live, great, just set that up online. When you go there and you push start, it goes to it. If the next one you're going to do is Twitch, you can just change that online. Very easy to do. It remembers all of your stream keys, all of your URLs. Quick and easy. The other thing you can do too is if you want to stream to multiple destinations, then you just use a restreaming app that will take that and restream it to different destinations, which is always a good thing too, because if you're pushing a couple of streams out of the unit, that's taking up more bandwidth, that's taking up more it's creating more potential problems, and you also don't have the analytics. So when you go with a restreamer, not that I'm plugging restreamers here, but when you go with a restreamer, you're sending up one stream, they're restreaming it for you, they're going to give you the analytics, but there are ways of doing both. But the nice thing is you're not stuck with just those platforms. All you need to do is anything that will take an RTMP stream, this can stream to.
So like Restream.io, Boxcast, Wowza, anything RTMP, you can set it up, it becomes one of your profiles, and you can just go. So that's really important. And then one of the things I think I want to go into now is it really is an affordable price. Now, some people look at the price tag of this and the data plan, and they go, oh my God, it's so expensive. What do you mean I have to pay, $295 a month? But if you were a church that has poor internet connectivity where you are, maybe you're in a rural area or you're in a city area, both tend to give you the extremes. Well, $295 a month means less than $100 a service, and you're getting super high quality streaming. If you're an event person who's doing events, think about it as each event. One of the things that I suggest for people is if they're getting into this as they want to become an event live streamer, is you can say, listen, I'll use your bandwidth, but I bring my own bandwidth. You can pre-book my own bandwidth. I charge you $100 or $200, whatever it is. But if we try to use yours and yours doesn't work, and I have to connect that day using mine, it's $250. So you give them the options and let them know where they are. One of the things that you run into, especially like in educational settings, is their firewalls may not allow you to stream to a YouTube or a Facebook, which could be blocked for whatever reason. So you really want to make sure when you're doing this streaming that you have your stream with you, and that's what makes the LiveU Solo Connect Kit so great. You can get the Solo encoder for $995. You can get the Connect Kit for $450. So for the $1,500, you're in business, you're streaming, you have cellular bonding, and you have a data plan that's $295 a month. I just think it's a tremendous deal. If you're going to stream once a year, this isn't for you. But if you're streaming multiple times a month, the cost of this, when it's spread over the amount of streams you're producing, really becomes so small when you look at the assurance and insurance of having all the bandwidth you need for gorgeous HD streams.
If you think about it that way, we've got, there's a lot of house of worships that I know of that are streaming right into this. They may have a TriCaster, they may have a Wirecast, they may have any number of video switchers. They're taking the output of that, going into a LiveU, and streaming right out of the back of that. They're doing, at least one service a week, so that's 4 services a month. That's less than $75 a service to guarantee a stream. And either it's places that don't have reliable internet, and the last thing you want to do is tell your parishioners, hey, you can't be on the wireless when you get here because you're taking up our streaming bandwidth. Or they're in locations where it's ridiculously expensive to get internet, some of these more rural churches.
Right, or what I like to say is a lot of people who do sports, baseball fields and football fields don't necessarily have internet on them. A campus might have internet, but the pool where they do the swimming, outdoor, the Olympic pool may not. They might have, even the biggest schools out there, like in Ohio State, well, they might not have streaming available from their wrestling rooms and their things like that. It can be used for streaming, for coaching, for showing off your best athletes, for doing live events. If you're doing an outdoor graduation, or all of a sudden there's a performance being done by one of your choirs is going to a senior citizens home to do a special holiday show, you could stream the whole thing now. You bring it with you. You don't have to worry that the bandwidth isn't there. And it's also very good if you're going to start producing like local news and local stories, because you never have to worry that where you go, you're going to get permission or need to log in for bandwidth. So LiveU Solo, a great product, phenomenal product for people who want to take and go to a single point stream and stream directly. But we get asked all the time, hey, I want to be able to bring in someone remote like we are with Glen into my show, who might be standing in front of a fire, who might be standing in front of a election rally, who might be standing, in the middle of a field watching a sports game. So that's why we want to segue now into the more professional product that LiveU is now. They've always had professional products, but this is a new one at a new price point that we're really excited about, and that is, drum roll please, we can take it full screen, introducing the LiveU 300S. This is a more professional broadcast quality product, and what the LiveU 300S allows you to do is to bring a remote guest directly into your live production. That's what we're doing today with Glen, who is right now in a coffee shop. Wave, show the coffee cup. This is not his house or anything. He's just in a coffee shop in Texas. Can you possibly turn the camera a little bit so they can see that this really isn't your house? We don't have permission for anyone, so we don't show people. Good, perfect. So he's on remote, on location, and he is basically just coming in, and you can see how good the signal works and the sync is, and we actually have talk back to each other enabled. So let's talk about the 300S, some of the advantages. 3G, 4K 10-bit HDR, and it does HEVC. So you're going to be able to get so much more video through a pipe, and that video could be 4K 10-bit HDR. But unlike the Solo, if we can talk about the LU300S is a part of a solution. So the whole solution, Glenn, if you can go through it, it's the 300S encoder, which we talked about. What else do we need to make this baby fly?
Yeah, so, and I love talking about these because this is, especially after the Solo, this is where the Solo comes from. This is the heritage of it. LiveU units are designed to replace traditional satellite trucks. So, you know, I always joke with people when we start talking about them, like, picture this, you know, with a driver and wheels, and that's why you're paying a premium for it, but you're replacing a high-end satellite truck. And what you've got is, you know, we're not doing RTMP, we're not taking this through a decoder that's taking an RTMP stream and putting it back out as video. We are actually taking this, I've got HDMI going into this, I could also have HD SDI, so same types of connections. It's using, in this case, this one's got 3 cellular modems, so I'm completely wireless at this point in time. It's sending that peer-to-peer to a server. So in the studio there's a server sitting there. That server has an HD SDI out of it. It can output HD SDI or NDI, depending upon which flavor you want to go with. But we're outputting HD SDI right into the back of the TriCaster, and we're getting super high quality, low latency video. I'm less than a second of latency between myself and Gary.
Yeah. Now the 300S, I want to talk about a solution. You can see it's a real broadcast type price tag. You're looking at starting at $14.95 for a 300S and the LU 2000 server. Now we say starting at because that's a server with a single SDI output for a single 300. The truth of the matter is I can have multiple 300s coming into my single server and picking which one I want to use it that day. Or I can have a server that has 1, 2, or 4 potential outputs. And Glenn, this isn't just me alone. So right now you're there, and we have our LU2000, but really anyone with an LU300S could give us permission and we could bring them into our show. And you could actually, if you were a freelancer, use your 300S and go into anyone else with an LU2000, server in there. So that's a whole nother level of workflows. That means if you're an organization, maybe a Fortune 500, or you're a school that's affiliated with, a conference, or maybe you're a church that's, several churches that work together, in the same geographic area. This is just amazing how this can scale up, and now you can bring everyone to anywhere at any time. Talk about that a little bit, because I just think it's fascinating.
Yeah, if you look at it simply, that server, that's a single channel server. If you have a 4-channel server, what that means is you could have 4 of these units out in the field and take different feeds in. So that's just the different levels of channels, but you could also have something where, maybe you've got, them in different locations sending different feeds, but where it really gets interesting is, like Gary said, is I could have a school district or a sports organization and have these servers everywhere. And anybody at any point in time can just give me the credentials to their field unit, and I can set up connections. So I can have some guy in, Connecticut sending me a feed to my server in Dallas, and then a couple hours later I could have another guy from New York sending it to me. You've got these completely, wide open areas where you can just send content from anywhere. Any field unit can talk to any server. It's not locked. You control that. I mean, the end user has control of that. The person in the field has control of that. And you can get into even bigger things where, hey, maybe I want to send to multiple locations. And we see this a lot in news where you've got somebody reporting on a national disaster or something, and they're going to send that one feed is going to go to multiple servers simultaneous. So a whole different way about thinking about the way you do things, but just realizing that now with this solution, if you've got a server, you've opened yourself up to feeds from anybody that has a unit, field unit, so anybody that has one of the LiveU 300s or above, you've got access to that. And if you're somebody, wants to be a freelancer, I've got my LiveU 300 field unit. Now I can go out and I can offer my services to anybody.
Yep. Now, one of the things I want to talk about is keep that graphic up if you could. We have a network of local dealers. This is a product that can be a little bit complex to work into your existing workflow. So if you're interested in it, give us a call. If you really need someone to come in and help custom design that into what you already have or into a bigger broadcast type workflow, we have dealers throughout the country who we can help you, we can put you in contact with, and you can get that going. So the LU300 is a little bit bigger than the LiveU Solo. It's a portable unit. It's got a little bit bigger, it's got a 2.2-inch display, multiple carrying options. Let's talk about also, it's just a higher level of product than a Solo. Well, our Solo is a phenomenal HD single point streamer encoder. This product really has a lot more capabilities. We're talking 4K P60 video, HDR resolution with 8 audio channels. Now, Glenn, to some people that might just be a lot of acronyms and letters that they don't quite understand, but explain, really, that's a really big differentiator from the Solo, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you've also got HEVC encoding. You've got control over the bit rate. So, the LiveU Solos are only going to encode to a certain level that is what's acceptable by YouTube, Facebook, and things like that. You've got control over this. You've got that HEVC encoding, which means you're going to get higher quality video at lower bandwidth. So for the same amount of data that you would send an H.264 video, you're getting a much higher quality video at that same data rate. So you've got that. You've got that scalability to be able to, if you're in someplace, 5G is a biggie. 5G is better at penetrating in certain locations. So the units are not just 5G, they're 5G and 4G, so you're good in either location. You've got that ability to go 4K. Maybe you're not doing 4K yet, but that is an option. Go 4K, 10-bit. And some of these, depending on the unit you buy, some of these can be licenses that you add for a month. Maybe you just say, hey, great, we're doing a really high-end profile show. We want to shoot it in 4K 10-bit and stream it in 4K 10-bit. You can do that. You can purchase it for a day or a month. You don't need to have these licenses for a full year. So it really becomes a very flexible unit for field production.
Now, Glenn, correct me if I'm wrong. You get the data plan starts at 15 gigabytes for about $1,800 per month, and that's your $1,800 per year, but that's your monthly bandwidth. Now with HEVC, it's kind of like you really have 30 because you can have half the pipe for the same quality video. So you can really get a lot more bang for your data buck. So even if you're not shooting 4K, you can get a ton of HD on that plan using the HEVC encoding. So I think let's go over the big things that we're getting here. We're getting the LiveU reliability, and that's there with 3 cellulars. We're getting 10-bit 4K P60 HDR, and we're getting HEVC. Did I miss anything?
5G, 4K.
5G.
I think you nailed all of it. Yep.
Yeah, let's talk about 5G a little bit more. You can get this with 5G modems. It's great. If you have 5G in your area, go for it. Some of the modems can be 4, some can be 5G, but it'll support up to 4 5G cellular modems. And as 5G gets more and more prevalent, it's really just going to give you another higher level of quality and bandwidth that you can count on when you're out in the field. But once again, the LU300S is a real broadcaster type product for people who want to bring remote guests into their production facility that exists already, like we're doing today. In fact, Glen is coming to you from a coffee shop in downtown Texas, where not Dallas, but just outside Dallas. Frisco, Texas.
Frisco. Yep.
And he's not using the bandwidth in the store at all. Their Wi-Fi, he's bringing his own thing. The LU300 is coming right in. And you can see with this conversation, the latency is practically non-existent. Now, we're talking to each other. So let's talk about that a little bit, because there are production tools that this includes. Some of them are included, some are a little extra. You can do tally. We're using SoloConnect right now, which is giving us the ability, to have this conversation back and forth. So basically, you're getting audio and I'm getting audio. We're mix-minusing it to be able to work. And then there's another thing called IP pipe, which we had introduced a little bundle with a Bird Dog P200 using IP pipe. So talk about that, because I think it's so cool what it allows you to do.
Yeah, IP pipe basically extends, so your server is on your local network. My field unit is on its own network through, Verizon, AT&T, whoever cellular network I'm on. But what IP pipe does, it extends that local server IP address range to the unit. And really what that means is now, I can talk directly to devices on there. And one of the coolest things is being able to do that remote camera setup. More and more there are cameras that are IP controllable. You can color grade IP. You've got PTZ cameras you can control over IP. So now, as soon as I plug a camera into that Ethernet port, it is now on my local IP address, which means, somebody sitting in the studio could connect to my camera, do my color grading, set up my lighting, set up everything on it, or if it's a PTZ camera, pan, tilt, zoom it, do those types of things and take control of it. And that is just great to be able to extend to that network.
So Glenn, if I'm producing a show, where I'm going to have a different person come in each week to be on my show from a certain area, I could have the 2000 installed like we do here. I could send them the 300S and a Bird Dog P200 as an example. We could ship that to them, and my guys here could be color grading to make sure the color looks great. They could be controlling the PTZ aspect of it. They could get full control of that camera remotely from here, and all the guest basically has to do is face the camera, right?
Correct. And we did that about a year ago. We kind of showed that off. It's a very neat feature, just to be able to say, okay, great, pop it in front of somebody as long as they've got it at a decent location. You can go in, you can reframe them, you can adjust the lighting. I think when we did this, one of the things that we discovered as much as we troubleshot it and tested up the first time is when we did our first test and we did our first broadcast with it. The stream, the sun was in a certain location. By the time we went live, the sun had moved. So as soon as we got on, oh my God,
I remember
the lighting
that.
is different in here.
Yep.
So we were able to jump on and make some adjustments just that quickly, which you couldn't ask an end user to do that. You couldn't ask a CEO to say, okay, we need to go in and change your iris and stuff like that. You'd never have that. You'd never have any success.
Glenn, I'm going to jump into that further. We're 2 years into and through the pandemic, and people are still bringing on remote guests where the lighting is horrible. And this is on network TV. It's on sports programs where they're bringing in the guy who just got into the Hall of Fame, or maybe they're bringing in a talking head general to talk about Ukraine, or maybe they're just bringing in some guy who's talking about an investment for an investment show. And I just find it so hysterical that we have technology readily available that I know the networks have the same technology available too, but for whatever reason, they're behind us. And what I mean by that is the people doing what I'm going to call live streaming, who've been doing it for a couple of years, we've upped our game so much, and the networks are still kind of in just make it work mode. It frightens me sometimes when I watch a late night talk show and they'll bring some guy or gal in, remotely who's starring in a new movie, and you know exactly what happened, man. They set everything up during the day when there was sun coming through that window. And now all of a sudden she's sitting in front of a window that doesn't have sun in front of it, and she's blown out because before they were having to deal with the backlighting, and now she's a shadow. Now before she was a shadow, and now she's blown out. If they had our solution, a 300S with the pipe, with the audio talk, with the tally light, with the whole solution, they could have had their engineers at the switching console fix everything and make sure it looked great. And they could even told her, hey, move to the left a little bit. We don't want you in front of that window anymore. Get in front of the bookcase. She moves over. They PTZ it over to there, and boom, you're in. Also, one of the things with the remote PTZ you could do is if I was talking to you, I could cut away to me, cut back to you, and now I'm on a close-up. I can cut away to me, and now I'm on the wider shot. And you give the impression of such a higher level production quality. And I know I'm rambling on this a little bit, but I really think that when you look at this whole thing, for under $20,000, you could have a solution that will bring in remote guests, remote talent, remote video that is so superior to what you're seeing on broadcast television every day, because they're just not using these tools yet. They're still stuck in some of their old ways. I understand if you're a network, you have 10,000 people you have to work with and do this as opposed to we're just one guy. But I'm just looking at this show today and I can't believe it. We have virtually no delay at all. You're telling me it's milliseconds, but I haven't been able to notice it.
Yeah, I think we only noticed it, we cut each other off a little bit, but that's also because we both want to talk.
Glenn, thank you so much for being on the show. Like I said, we had 2 shows today. The first portion was your top 5 reasons to start streaming with LiveU Solo, and LiveU Solo is a phenomenal product. And for the bulk of the Videoguys customer, it really fits, the profile of what they need. But for those looking for a more professional broadcast solution, the 300S is a great product. It's rolled out recently. I think it's tremendous. And if you have questions about it, give us a call. 800-323-2325. Glenn, thank you so much for being on the show. You can go back to lunch or your coffee break, whatever you're doing now. Thank you for setting this whole thing up. And I just want to remind everyone, subscribe to our channel on YouTube. That way you'll be notified when we're going live. Like us on Facebook, all that other good stuff. The social media stuff works. We appreciate it. I'm back doing the shows again. I want to compliment my team who did another excellent show and who did great shows while I was out, including you, Glenn. So thank you so much. So this is Gary from Videoguys. We'll see you next week. Peace.
Videoguys is available Monday through Friday. Give us a call at 1-800-323-2325. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram to stay connected with all of our updates. And you can like us on Facebook. Keep an eye out for our live videos, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.